Oh, what an honor it is to be here. At the same time, I am filled with sadness and shame for the U.S. policies it has. My name is Moon Luna Vasquez. I am a Puerto Rican lesbian, a member of the U.S. Women and Cuba Collaboration National Steering Committee since the early 2000s. I am also co-organizer of the collaborations Cuba U.S. Lesbian and Allies Project. I am blessed to work with amazing women. I work alongside my Cuba counterpart and comrade Liana Mildred Lopez Filpo. Liana lives in Cienfuegos, Tulipan, Cienfuegos, Cuba. Liana and her partner Olympia Diaz Borges sent us a video they made addressing the fact of living their entire life under the cruel U.S. economic blockade. I also work with Isel Casadilla Acosta and Norma Rita Guillard Lamonta. And when I say we, I mean us in the U.S. Okay, I don't take credit for all this work that we have been doing for many years. Okay, both Norma and Isel are activists, lesbian activists in Cuba, who will talk about addressing life under the U.S. blockade. We will also hear from my compañera here in the U.S., Deb Goldman, who organizes with me on this project and also in the collaboration. She's wonderful. These women are all members of the Lesbian Allied Project. My compañeras are at heart. And before I go any further, I would like to thank the U.S.-Cuba Normalization Conference Coalition and the Canadian Network on Cuba, who sponsored this 24-hour global online virtual picket. Besos y abrazos to all of you. As the title of this picket says, remove Cuba from the so-called state sponsor of terrorism list. In 2015, Cuba was removed from the U.S. state sponsor of terrorism list after an exhaustive review by experts at the U.S. Department and in the U.S. intelligence community. But the Trump administration did not cite any new fact to justify their decision to once again add Cuba to this list during the last days of them being in office. So we have been asking the Biden-Harris administration since 2001 to recommend that the state conduct a new review and remove Cuba from this list. This unprincipled designation places another roadblock in the path towards improving relations with Cuba and creates further economic obstacles to Cuba, such as purchasing and receiving humanitarian goods. This is critically affecting Cuban women and children on a daily basis. But the Biden-Harris administration keeps repeatedly ignoring our plea. Please demand that the U.S. roll back the Trump's administration and now the Biden-Harris restrictions. Many hurt the Cuban people. We must remove Cuba from the state list of terrorism and travel restrictions, suspend all U.S. regulations that prevent medical and other humanitarian assistance to reach the Cuban people, and remove all restrictions on family and non-family remittance. Okay, let's talk about the Cuba-U.S. Lesbian Project. Our mission is very simple: to build bridges of solidarity in the LGBTQI community between the two countries. Organizing and working this project has had its victories and its challenges. The victories. We have organized meetings in Cuba with the LGBT social network. We have hosted Isel Casadilla Acosta, the founder of the first lesbian group Las Isabelas, on a U.S. national speaking tour under the Obama administration, so she can speak for herself about what it is like to live as a lesbian in Cuba, addressing the real historical view of Cuba's advancements and achievements of the LGBT community. We've organized multiple webinars from Cuba and U.S. lesbian voice panel discussion to our most recent webinar celebrating LGBTQIA Two-Spirit Plus, featuring award-winning film director Peggy Gilpin, who joined us for a presentation of her classic film Butterflies on the Scaffold. This project, in a way, is a way for our communities to learn from one another, to exchange information that helps us grow and build community, a way for us to share the reality of being gay here in the U.S. and in Cuba. The challenges, okay? As one of the main organizers, I can share firsthand that we have had our fair share of challenges under the blockade. In Cuba, you cannot access Zoom or many other social platforms. As a result, Cubans in Cuba cannot be live on our webinars. When we have them as guests on our program, it has to be pre-videotaped. Communication is costly. Travel to and from Cuba is difficult and also costly. As I first mentioned, I feel shame to live in a country whose policies towards Cuba are hateful and beyond comprehension. As we go into November, a month of giving thanks, a month of Thanksgiving here in the U.S., we ask President Biden to sit down, when he goes to sit down to eat his Thanksgiving dinner, to think about all the Cuban people who do not have enough food to eat on this particular day as a direct result of the U.S. policies and blockade against Cuba. We ask Biden to look deeply into his heart, to act with compassion, love, and to be a just leader who ends the U.S. chokehold on Cuba, who are amazing people, Cuba is a country of love. They send doctors across the world, okay? Not guns, doctors, love. And for 31 years, the U.S. has been condemned by a United Nations annual vote by almost every country in the world for maintaining this blockade. 31 years. Once again, President Biden, take Cuba off the state-sponsored list of terrorists. Let Cuba truly have its own sovereignty. Let Cuba have its own sovereignty. And for all of us, hasta la victoria siempre. Gracias.